Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Wrestling vs. the World podcast. During your day, sweet. If not, then what the hell ever. So today and next week, these episodes are going to be kind of linked together, because today I'm going to talk about the history of the WWE World Tag Team Championships. Not to be confused with the ones that are currently on Raw, but it's going to be the ones that we have from 2002 up until the end in 2010. If you guys are familiar with that period, you'll know what I'm talking about. So let's go over this history and where it all began. So we're going to start off September 23rd, 2002 episode of Raw. The tag team of Hurricane, being Hurricane and Kane, defeated Christian and Lance Storm of the Un-Americans to win the, at the time known as the WWE Tag Team Championships, which at this point were Raw exclusive after the Un-Americans, which were the previous champions, signed exclusively to Raw. So this would begin the 21-day tag team title reign for Hurricane, but 2 weeks later on the October 7, 2002 episode of Raw, we have Raw Roulette with the TLC match, and this was the debut of the renaming of the championship when it became now known as the World Tag Team Championships. Because, of course, on SmackDown, it would be they would get the WWE Tag Team Championship named over there. And a small bit of a note, the previous week, September 30th, 2002 episode of Raw, Kane was a double champion when he won the Intercontinental Championship from Chris Jericho. Now, in the October 14, 2002 episode of Raw, Christian and Chris Jericho would defeat Hurricane to become the new World Tag Team Champions, starting their tag team title reign of 62 days. Now, for the title design that we're familiar with, it would get its debut at Survivor Series when Chris Jericho, when half the tag team champions actually had a match on the show, took part in the Elimination Chamber match for the World Heavyweight Championship, and he had the new title design with him. Now, you jump forward a little bit to Armageddon. Booker T and Goldust would win a Fatal 4-Way Tag Team Elimination match against the Dudley Boys, William Regal and Lance Storm, and Chris Jericho Christian, who are the tag champions, to become the new Raw World Tag Team Champions, starting their tag team title reign of 22 days. Then going on to the beginning of 2003, on January 6, 2003 episode of Raw, William Regal and Lance Storm would defeat Booker T and Goldust to become the new World Tag Team Champions. The title reign would last 13 days until suddenly at the Royal Rumble, the Dudley Boys would defeat Regal and Storm to become the new World Tag Team Champions. And according to the stories, last I checked, I believe this was done just so that they have a babyface characters like actually winning besides just Brock Lesnar in the match against Big Show earlier. Because you look at the world title matches and everything, still won by heels. So the Dudley Boys are new tag champions. But then the next day, on January 20th, 2003 episode of Raw, William Regal and Lance Storm would defeat the Dudley Boys in an impromptu match by Chief Morley, who was like helping take control of Raw and everything with Raw GM Eric Bischoff, after Bubba Ray was put through a table. So now Regal and Storm were the tag team champions again, and the title reign would last 63 days. Then a big notable moment that we remember here was that No Way Out, William Regal got a concussion from a body slam that happened in the tag match. So you get a little bit forward to March 24, 2003 episode of Raw, a little bit before WrestleMania. Chief Morley announced that the tag team titles were now vacant due to the 30-day title defense rule, but then immediately handed the championships to himself and Lance Storm. So now Chief Morley was tag team champions, and Lance Storm had another tag team title run on his shoulders, because of course William Regal was dealing with a concussion and a heart parasite that had not been diagnosed just prior to this. So this tag team title run would last 7 days, because the next week on Raw, March 31st, 2003 episode of Raw, Kane and Rob Van Dam would defeat Morley and Storm, as well as the Dudley Boys, in a triple threat tag team elimination match to become the new champions. Tag team title reign will last 76 days until Bad Blood, when Rene Dupree and Sylvain Grenier of La Resistance defeated Kane and Rob Van Dam to become the new tag team champions. And at this moment, Rene Dupree made history by this point being the youngest overall champion in WWE history, up until Nicholas at WrestleMania 34 broke that record at the age of 10, about 15 years later. So La Resistance would hold the tag team titles for 98 days, and then you get to Unforgiven. So originally there was going to be a 6-man tag team non-title tables match of all 3 members of the Dudley Boys against La Resistance, which included Robert Conway, but Spike Dudley got taken out due to a neck issue prior to this, so then it became a 3-on-2 handicap tables match for the tag team titles as announced on Heat, and the Dudley Boys would defeat La Resistance to become the new tag team champions and start this reign of 84 days. Then you get to December at Armageddon. where Batista and Ric Flair, who were last-minute additions to the tag team turmoil, would eliminate and defeat the Dudley Boys at the end to become the new World Tag Team Champions, and this was the infamous night where all members of Evolution left the pay-per-view with championships. So Batista and Ric Flair would hold these championships for 64 days, and then on the February 16, 2004 episode of Raw, Booker T and Rob Van Dam would defeat Evolution's Batista and Ric Flair to become new tag team champions. Then this reign would last 35 days before they lost it back to Batista and Ric Flair on the March 22, 2004 episode of Raw, which to my recollection was the WWE Draft. Now, this reign would last 28 days, because then on the April 19, 2004 episode of Raw, Chris Benoit and Edge would defeat Batista and Ric Flair to become the new World Tag Team Champions, which also made Chris Benoit a double champion because he was World Heavyweight Champion at the same time. In the following month, in Canada, 42 days later, La Resistance, now without Rene Dupree, who was over on SmackDown because of the draft, so this being just Robert Conway and Sylvain Grenier, they would defeat Chris Benoit and Edge to become the new World Tag Team Champions and start a very notable 141-day title reign for these championships. Then you get to October at Taboo Tuesday. Chris Benoit and Edge, who are two of the three participants outside of Shawn Michaels who were not voted to be the challenger for Triple H's World Heavyweight Championship, they would challenge La Resistance for the tag titles, and Benoit would win the championships on his own after Edge abandoned his tag team partner. So Benoit and Edge were technically the tag team champions, even though Benoit won the match himself. And then 13 days later, on the November 1st, 2004 episode of Raw, Benoit and Edge would lose the tag team titles back to La Resistance, and Edge would solidify his heel turn post-match. 2 weeks later, on November 15th, 2004 episode of Raw, Eugene and William Regal would defeat La Resistance and the team of Rhino and Tajiri in a triple threat tag team elimination match to become the new World Tag Team Champions, starting their title reigns of 62 days. Now, unfortunately, during this title reign, Eugene would suffer a patella injury at the New Year's Revolution pay-per-view, and on the January 16, 2005 house show, La Resistance would defeat William Regal and technically Jonathan Coachman, who was substituting for Eugene in this match, but they would say on commentary that Regal defended the titles on his own. But La Resistance would dethrone Regal and Eugene for the tag titles technically. So this would start their title reign of 19 days, and then on the February 7, 2005 episode of Raw, Regal and Tajiri in Japan would defeat La Resistance to become the new tag team champions. And this title reign would last 86 days, because then at Backlash in a tag team turmoil, Hurricane and Rosie would become the new tag team champions, starting this title reign of 140 days, just not as long as La Resistance's tag title reign that we saw the prior year. Then in September at Unforgiven, Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch would succeed in defeating Hurricane and Rosie, starting their tag team title run of 44 days. Then about a month and a half later at Taboo Tuesday, Big Show and Kane, who were two of the three participants who were not voted to take part in the triple threat match for the WWE Championship with Shawn Michaels against Kurt Angle and John Cena, they by default would become the new tag team contenders for Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch, and would defeat them to become the new tag team champions and hold these championships for a very solid 153 days. Then on April 3rd, 2006, the night after WrestleMania 22, the Spirit Squad would defeat Big Show and Kane to become the new World Tag Team Champions in an upset victory, which made all 5 members counted as World Tag Team Champions due to the Freebird rule. So this tag team title reign would last an astonishing 216 days until Cyber Sunday, where Ric Flair and Roddy Piper would be voted, because Roddy Piper was voted as Ric Flair's partner, to defeat the Spirit Squad to become the new World Tag Team Champions. But then 8 days later, Roddy Piper and Ric Flair would lose the tag team titles to Rated RKO on the November 13, 2006 episode of Raw. And it was thanks to this voting and Piper being part of the match, where Piper was then learning about his health issues. So Rated RKO would hold these World Tag Team titles for 77 days. And then on the January 29, 2007 episode of Raw, after the Royal Rumble, John Cena and Shawn Michaels would defeat Rated RKO to become the new World Tag Team Champions and starting their tag team title reign of 63 days. Titles they did not even bring to the ring with them at WrestleMania. Then the night after WrestleMania, April 2nd, 2007 episode of Raw, in the back-to-back Raw Rumbles, the Hardy Boys would win the second one, to dethrone Shawn Michaels and John Cena after Shawn Michaels deliberately eliminated his tag team partner. So the Hardy Boys became the World Tag Team Champions in this match, despite the fact that Matt Hardy was technically assigned to the SmackDown brand during this period. So they ignored the brand split during this time. So the Hardy Boys would hold the tag team titles for 63 days, and then on the June 4th, 2007 episode of Raw, they would lose the tag team titles to Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch, who were seemingly being babyfaces in the build to this, but then reverted back to being heels post-match by attacking the Hardy Boys. So Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch would hold the tag team titles for 93 days, and then we saw a couple title changes that happened on house shows that WWE acknowledged. On September 5th, 2007, Paul London and Brian Kendrick defeated Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch in Africa to become the new tag team champions, but then 3 days later, on September 8th, 2007, they lose them right back to Cade and Murdoch at another house show. So now with this new title reign, Cade and Murdoch would hold these for 93 days, and then on the 15th anniversary episode of Raw, which was done a month before the actual anniversary, December 10, 2007 episode of Raw, Hardcore Holly and Cody Rhodes would defeat Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch to have this odd tag team title reign of 202 days. Then you get this oddity here. Night of Champions in June of 2008, Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase defeated Hardcore Holly and technically Cody Rhodes in this oddball tag team title match to where Cody turned on his tag partner and then aligned with Ted DiBiase. DiBiase pinned Holly, so now DiBiase was now World Tag Team Champions and Cody Rhodes was now a two-time World Tag Team Champion. So it stopped one title reign and started a brand new one in this exact same evening. This title reign would last 36 days until the August 4, 2008 episode of Raw, where John Cena and Batista would defeat Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase Jr. for the tag titles. But then a week later, Rhodes and Ted DiBiase won the tag team titles back on August 11, 2008 episode of Raw. So now this second title reign for this exact tag team would last 77 days until the October 27, 2008 episode of Raw, where they would lose the tag team titles to CM Punk and Kofi Kingston. 47 days later, on a house show on December 13, 2008, John Morrison and The Miz would defeat CM Punk and Kofi Kingston to win the World Tag Team titles, and this tag team title reign would last 113 days. Now, you get to a match that was advertised but ended up being a dark match but released on DVD later, where the Colognes, Primo and Carlito, would retain the WWE Tag Team titles, but then defeat John Morrison and The Miz in this lumberjack match to win their World Tag Team Championships, quote-unquote unifying the belts, but they were still technically counted as separately active going forward. So now the Colognes were the unified tag team champions for 84 days, like starting with the win of the World Tag Team titles, and then at the Bash, Edge and Chris Jericho, as last-minute additions, would defeat the Colognes and Legacy, Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase Jr., in a triple threat match to become new unified tag team champions. Now, technically this only lasted 28 days because Edge would be out due to injury, because at Night of Champions, Chris Jericho announced a new tag team partner for himself officially, being the Big Show to replace Edge, thus starting Jeri-Show, as they defeat a Legacy. So now, Jeri-Show started as tag team champions. Jericho has a new title reign starting here, kind of similarly the kerfluffle that we saw with Cody Rhodes the previous year. But now Jeri-Show starts their tag team title run here at Night of Champions with 140 days. Then you get several months later at TLC in December, DX would defeat Jeri-Show in a tag team TLC match to become the new unified tag team champions. So this tag team title reign would last 57 days, and then on the February 8, 2010 episode of Raw, the Show Miz, now being The Miz and Big Show, would defeat DX and the Straight Edge Society, being CM Punk and Luke Gallows, in a triple threat tag team elimination match to become the new tag team champions. This title reign would also last 77 days, because then on the April 26, 2010 episode of Raw, the Hart Dynasty, Tyson Kidd and D.H. Smith would defeat Show Miz to become the new tag team champions. This title reign would last 112 days for at least the World Tag Team titles, because after this, on the August 16, 2010 episode of Raw, the anonymous Raw general manager announced that the unified tag team titles will now just be known as the WWE Tag Team titles. The tag team titles will get redesigned, and this officially marks the end of the World Tag Team Championships, which had originated back decades prior I believe going all the way back to the 1960s was through the Attitude Era and everything, but now the original World WWF/WWE/World Tag Team Championships were officially done. So yeah, that's a good amount of title reigns here. Like, I have like 47 screenshots and all this with all these different notes and everything, and that was a pretty good run for these tag team titles during this 8-year history. Now, the big question I was asked is who do you imagine immediately comes to mind when you come to these tag team title designs? For myself, if I had to give an answer, for some reason, when I see the World Tag Team Championships, my mind immediately goes to Rated RKO for some reason. More than the Spirit Squad, more than Kane and Big Show, more than Lance Cage, Trevor Murdoch, and others. I'm not sure why, but like, they're the team I envision when I immediately see the World Tag Team titles. I don't know why. But let me know in the comment section below, when you see these World Tag Team title designs that we have from 2002 to 2010, who is the tag team that you most associate with these belts during this period? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed today's episode of the podcast, folks, please remember, leave a like, subscribe with the bell, turn on from watching here on YouTube, comment what you thought below, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Thanks for listening, folks. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out, and good day, everybody.